My name is Nick, and welcome to my channel, where I like to talk about scary stuff. Valentine is an early 2000s slasher about a group of women who are stalked and terrorized by a killer wearing a Cupid mask who is out for revenge after events that occurred at a Valentine's Day dance back during their teenage years. Can we just talk about Valentine? Like, can we spend the next 15 years conservatively talking about how great this movie is? I'm gonna warn you right off the bat that this video will be a bit all over the place, and me just being a fanboy, if you can't already tell. I've been dying to review this movie, and now that it's streaming on Shudder, well, we're doing a Shudder Day review. Massive spoiler warning because I really do love this movie, and if you haven't seen it, well, you just need to fix that in general, but head on over to Shudder and give Valentine a watch, then come back and enjoy the video, because it's gonna be a good time.
Spend this Valentine's Day
He loves me not.
with someone you love,
He loves me.
someone you trust,
He loves me not.
and someone you know
He loves me.
won't try to kill you.
First off, I remember reading the novel that this movie is based on back when I was a kid, and I really enjoyed it. Even though the book and the movie are two very different experiences, the thing that I love that the movie captured so well from the book is the horrors of the dating scene. All of our main characters are in various stages of relationships or singledom or somewhere in between, and it's perfectly Valentine's Day themed, and something I want to see a lot more of in horror movies. I will say right off the bat, one of the major complaints that I have about this movie is that I do wish it was a tad sexier. Like, for a movie titled Valentine, we don't get a sex scene, we barely get one shirtless dude. Like, there is some brief nudity during the art show scene, and it is intentionally supposed to be sleazy, but I kind of wish this movie was just like a little bit sexier, you know what I mean? Just like a little bit sexier. But I do have to say, on the other hand, I really enjoyed the way that this movie treated its female characters. They're not handled in a very exploitative way. Instead, it really focuses on their perspectives in terms of how they handle their relationships. But to get to the good bits, what I really appreciate about Valentine is the consistent amount of fun horror movie sequences. All of the kills are solid enough, even when they aren't particularly creative or graphic. They all have their own flavor. They have discernible locations and catchwords, whether I say hot tub or body bag. They all stand out in their own unique way. The Cupid killer totally works for me. The mask should be stupid, but for some reason it comes off as so odd and so specific that it feels like something out of a giallo. And I like that it takes place in a city location. The action is not contained to a summer camp or a college campus. This killer is coming for you whenever and wherever. You may have to suspend a little bit more than the typical amount of disbelief for a horror film, but I think if you're willing to go along for the ride, Valentine is a super fun slasher. From the very beginning, we see the Cupid masked killer has nosebleeds just like the bully Jeremy Melton from the Valentine's Day dance, but we don't know who Jeremy Melton grew up to be, and there are plenty of douchebag boyfriends presented as possible suspects, so even though we know who the killer is, it's still fun figuring out who the killer is. The Valentine's Day theme is played with so well, with the characters receiving Valentines before they're attacked. I mean, the maggots in the chocolate box, like, it is so good. I love that this killer focuses on terrorizing the characters before just going in for the kill. It's something that we saw a lot of in 90s slashers, and again, something I want to see a lot more of in today's horror. I love everything about this movie from the very opening, with the red Warner Brothers logo, to the super stalkery opening credits interspliced with the Valentine's Day dance where everything goes wrong. It perfectly establishes all of our characters and then gets right into it. The film opens with the Valentine's Day dance back from middle school times, where scrawny little Jeremy Melton tries to dance with Shelley, Lily, Paige, and then Kate, all of whom turn him down until he gets to Dorothy, who we see sitting alone at the bleachers, and they just start making out under the bleachers. Now I want to talk about what's probably considered the most controversial or problematic aspect of this film, and that's when Dorothy and Jeremy are making out under the bleachers. They're caught by this pack of douchebags, and because Dorothy has already gone through so much bullying herself, she lies and says that Jeremy attacked her, which prompts the guys to then attack Jeremy, pouring fruit punch on him before stripping him down in front of everyone and beating the shit out of him. I can hear some people make the argument that this movie has a don't believe women message, but I don't think that's the case at all, and I really appreciate that this movie is surprisingly more layered than that, because Dorothy talks about why she chose to lie later on when she's discussing how she was bullied and she couldn't take it, and so she lied to get herself out of the situation, even though she ended up throwing Jeremy under the bus. It sucks, but kids are shitty to each other. Like, that happens. And I like that it presents Dorothy as a complex character who does human things. Shocker. We jump to 13 years later as adult Shelley, played by Katherine Heigl, is on a date with a weird-ass who refers to himself in the third person. I love how this movie mixes the horrors of the dating scene with, you know, straight up horror. In a move that makes absolutely no sense to me, Shelley, who is in med school, decides to go to the morgue to perform a midnight autopsy for practice, and after flirting with a guy who she should be going out on dates with, Shelley returns to her corpse to find it very much alive. Okay, this is super stupid. I'll admit, this is super dumb. She goes to place her scalpel on the stomach of the corpse to slice him open, and oh no, he breathes, and then she jumps back, and the body of the corpse falls out of a closet, and somehow in this moment our killer slips away, gets into costume, and prepares to attack again. I mean, it's stupid. Again, you've got to deal with suspending disbelief. He somehow locks all the doors too, and they're like, it's stupid. It's slasher movie rules. The killer attacks and chases Shelley down the hall with visuals that I genuinely find creepy. She finds herself hiding in a room full of corpses and body bags until the killer appears and just starts stabbing into these bags until he finds Shelley. He slits her throat pretty unceremoniously, but with the blood dripping to the tray below in the earlier attack, it makes a lackluster cold open much more impactful. I mean, we get 2 cold opens in this movie. I love it. Marley Shelton plays our final girl, Kate. As far as I'm concerned, she earned her stripes in the horror community with this movie, but she went on to be a genre queen with Grindhouse and Scream 4 and 5. She's dealing with her on-again, off-again alcoholic boyfriend Adam, played by David Boreanaz, who she may be back on with, as well as this creepy neighbor who rhymes all the time. That guy is super creepy, and his death with the iron is absolutely classic. Dorothy is the fat girl turned hot blonde who is still a fat girl deep down inside, because aren't we all? And she takes in this hot guy Campbell, who immediately and obviously begins scamming her, and poor Dorothy. But this is another instance where Valentine does something different, and they were very early to sounding the alarm on that identity theft shit. Then we have Lily, who is loosely dating an artist, and she's living with Paige, and I love that they become best friends for life. Jessica Caulfield was great in this movie, and she also killed it in Urban Legends Final Cut, if you missed that. Her death is the highlight for me personally. She gets arrowed to death at an art gallery, and her body falls into a dumpster. Like, way harsh tie. And then there's Paige, and I'll say it, I'll be the one to say it. I love Denise Richards in this movie. I don't care. I love her in this, and in Starship Troopers, and in Wild Things. Oh my god, no one has even seen Wild Things anymore. It's on Netflix right now. Go watch Wild Things. Throughout the whole movie, Paige is being slut-shamed by everyone, including all of her friends. They're constantly making jokes about her sex life. She's the Samantha of the group. But I love that she's sex positive while also not taking any shit. Once she's about to hook up with this guy that she's been flirting with, she finds that he's trying to take advantage of her, and she's all, the fuck you think this is? In maybe the most iconic scene of the movie, Paige ties this guy to a bed and then pours candle wax onto his penis. And I mean, in a movie full of brutal stuff, this really does it. I mean, this is the scene that I remember people talking about on the school bus back when I was a kid. I don't know why people in 5th grade were watching Valentine. I'm jealous anyway, it doesn't matter. But I love that a simple little slasher movie has something so over the top and hilariously awesome happen in it. The next most memorable scene of the movie is when Paige is murdered in a hot tub. She's first locked inside, then the killer uses a drill to stab at her, then he straight up tosses the drill into the tub to electrocute her. It's horrifying, but another thing that is so over the top and crazy, it is the best kind of insane. Another small complaint I will say that I have with this movie is that I wish there was one solid singular chase scene. Like, there are a lot of good attacks, but I wish I had, like, you know, and I know what you did last summer level chase scene in here. We have some good ones. Again, I do like the cold open where Katherine Heigl is like kind of chased for a moment. Probably the closest we have to a good chase scene in this movie is when Ruthie shows up at the Valentine's Day party. At the end, she's a side character who was also wronged by Dorothy's fake boyfriend Campbell, and she's essentially only in this movie to show up for this sequence to pad the body count, but It works for me because it's good. She's chased around the basement of the house, but mostly just hides until she gets killed. I mean, it's a good scene, but it could have been better. Marley Shelton's chase at the end is filled with some really solid body reveals, but the killer is barely present, so she's kind of just wandering around, and I do wish they utilized the house a little bit better. I mean, it's like a big, crazy house, like, we should have some more fun with that. Although I do have to say, Kate finding the detective's head in the pond, like, that's how you do a body reveal. So the ending is stupid, right? Like, it's really stupid. This is where the movie falls apart, and it's fine enough for me. Again, like I said, you just kind of have to go along with it. You kind of just have to let Valentine happen. That's pretty creepy saying it, but you know, that's Valentine. David Boreanaz is the killer. He's adult Jeremy Melton, but somehow at the end, he gets Dorothy into the Cupid killer costume just in time to shoot her a whole bunch in front of Kate so that he looks like the hero. It doesn't make sense, and I never for 1 second believed that Dorothy was actually the killer. So I kind of don't care that much once we see Kate and Adam resting, thinking it's all blown over and the cops are on the way, and we see blood drip onto Kate's face, because wouldn't you know it, Adam has a nosebleed, because bum bum bum, he's Jeremy Melton. We already figured out, we know. This is totally copying Alone in the Dark, one of my other favorite underrated slashers. You can watch my review for it if you'd like. I will just say that it is totally copying, but it's doing it in a way that works for me, so I'll allow it. And I have to say, I always thought that Adam kills Kate as the credits roll. It's like, it sounds like we hear a bit of a shriek, and I'm like, oh, he totally kills Kate, but also, I was thinking on this last rewatch, I mean, he's kind of got the girl, right? He's convinced everyone else Dorothy is the killer. I mean, maybe he just rides off into the sunset with Kate and pretends to not be a killer? I don't know. I mean, he seems to have gotten what he wanted in the end. I kind of like that version better, to be honest. Valentine is nowhere near a perfect movie by any means, and I'll openly admit, I am not just judging this on a curve as a slasher fan, but also as someone who nearly wore out a VHS tape of this movie as a kid. This movie makes me want more Valentine's Day themed horror movies. I want more romance horror, more dating horror, more 90s styled slashers with mystery elements and creative attack sequences. I just want more Valentine. For the concept, I'm gonna give Valentine a 3.5 out of 5. It could have cut much deeper, but Valentine still manages to hold up over 20 years later. As for the execution, I'm also gonna give it a 3.5 out of 5. The stylization is perfect for the tone and vibe, the acting is working for me, the writing is surprisingly feminist, and the kills are endlessly effective. And for the entertainment value, I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5. It moves at a clip and stuffs its runtime with decent character work and solid scary stuff. For my personal grade, I'm gonna give Valentine a 3.5 out of 5. It hits all the sweet spots for me, with just a few outdated blemishes sprinkled throughout. Still, Valentine is probably one of the best post-Scream slashers, exemplifying why Valentine's Day is one of the most underutilized holidays for horror. I could probably talk about Valentine for another 72 hours straight, so keep the conversation going in the comments. Do you have a favorite character? What's your favorite part? What's your favorite kill? Do you not like Valentine? Do you hate it, actually? I mean, that's totally valid. Also, go somewhere else. You can follow me on Instagram and Letterboxd for more movie recommendations. That's it for this video, but I won't stop you from watching another.